Sabrina Annual Spectacular 1. I'm only going to review the one by Flynn. It's effortless to prove why the first one sucks though. Why doesn't Sabrina instantly use magic on these evil witches to make them not bother her anymore? She could make them nice or turn them into statues. If her excuse is she'll get seen by a witch spying on her and get in trouble, that witch would think it was justified though. Any witch spying on her would have used magic to stop all of these jerks out of compassion. They think they can take her power, so why doesn't Sabrina instantly take theirs? Why didn't they instantly point and get her power? So Scaredy Cat starts with Salem and his Uncle Mort in front of a castle while Salem bores me giving me blatantly obvious recap dialogue. At least he finally has a good design. Mort says a ghost has been haunting the castle since he looked in a mirror and scared himself to death centuries ago. That's ridiculous. Hilda looked into a mirror and cracked it a couple of times and she never died. He would have had to not know what he looked like for a really long time. Even then, a witch could make himself capable of looking attractive as long as he wanted. They look forward to getting the treasure. What does Mort say? Ah, I see. After he's told ghosts aren't real. Anyone who believes in ghosts won't instantly change their mind because of someone else because they're too stubborn. And there's plenty of Sabrina stories across continuities where ghosts are real. And if they were real, every witch would know it. Besides, an omnipotent warlock has no reason to think anything's a threat to him. So Mort takes a ride on a broom with goggles on again. Like that's normal for witches. This time Salem doesn't even wear any. I guess this castle is considered a historical site, and so the reason the witches didn't already take everything related to it was because they wanted it to be preserved. But a few witches would still want to. It's a waste to have all this stuff here not enjoyed by anyone. For people to make sure this place wouldn't get stolen from completely, there would have to be either cameras all over this castle or witches spying on every witch all the time. The manga confirmed that at the very least magic use was monitored, so people would know not to use magic to take stuff from this place. They wouldn't need to because witches could summon whatever they want, and usually aren't out of magic. They could even summon houses, but it'd still save magic to live here. So it must actually be haunted or it wouldn't be abandoned, and it'd already have been robbed without magic. Mort uses magic to fake a ghost to scare Salem as a prank and instantly feels sorry for him. Why didn't he know he'd feel sorry for him? Some time is wasted with dwelling on this, and they run away from a ghost in the end, even though there's a million spells they could use against him. In the 70s Sabrina story called The Exorcist, Hilda at least tried to read out spells to get rid of the ghost. So why don't they use a spellbook and do that? Sabrina warped the hypnotist to her in a 70s comic, so it's obvious a witch could warp anything to them. He wouldn't still have his treasure. The whole summoning anything thing applies to treasure too. He doesn't want to use up his magic summoning treasure if he doesn't have to, plus it's about the journey of going to look for treasure. This was nonsensical. Why do they keep hiring him and Tanya for Sabrina's stories? Sabrina's had plenty of new writers like Frank Doyle, and they usually still wrote like the other ones instead of establishing ridiculous rules like having to use magic on instruments to cast an admiration spell. Before the 90s comic, none of the new writers overcomplicated magic and wimpified the main characters. They were all on the same wavelength. Why did they loosen up the quality control? It looks like you'd have to intentionally write the series in a contradicting way because the older writers didn't usually do that by accident after hundreds of stories. This story by Ian Flynn was about Salem and his uncle going to an abandoned castle to take its treasure that's just sitting there not being enjoyed by anyone. And after Mort reveals out of nowhere that he's the type to make his nephew think there's a ghost out of sadism, they run away from a ghost scared, even though they could turn it into a frog or something. Even if ghosts are immune to magic, they could still warp the treasure to them. Not to mention use spells to be invisible and not be heard so the ghosts wouldn't detect them. I have some ideas for new comics to review. I just have a really hard time motivating myself to do it. Because 2 of them, I assume they're always good. And one of them, I read about on TV Tropes, and it seems like it's terrible. But something poorly written can still be really interesting.